This gaming PC that you see behind me here sold within 1 day of me listing it on Facebook Marketplace because of the aesthetic, the price, and the reputation that I've been able to build with my PC flipping business. So in this video, we're going to go over how you can build this exact same build under a $600 budget and how you can build a great reputation with your PC flipping business. Let's get right into it.
Alright, going over the parts list for the build today. For the CPU, I went with the Ryzen 5 5500. Retail on Amazon is $74, but we got this one off of a Prime weekend for $61 brand new. And for the CPU cooler, we will be using the AMD stock cooler today. I think that it's super clean, especially after we spray paint it white. It'll look really great with this build. For the motherboard, we went with this micro ATX ASUS Prime B550 M-A Wi-Fi 2. I've used this motherboard many times in the past. It's super reliable. It has a nice black, white, and gray aesthetic that should match nice with the aesthetic of our PC. Retail on Newegg is $100 for this motherboard, but we were able to get it for a combo deal for $67.75 brand new. For the RAM, we did get an amazing deal with this one, especially in today's crazy RAM market. We got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz white with RGB. On eBay, on average, a 2x 8 gigabyte set of DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM goes for around $45 to $55, but we were able to snag this set for $22.50 after taxes and shipping. With the SSD, especially in today's market, we weren't able to get any good deals. Actually any deals at all. I did go for this Patriot P400 Lite Gen 4 SSD, 1TB version, NVMe. We got this SSD for a brand new retail price on Amazon, which was $75. For the graphics card today, we're going with this beautiful PNY RTX 3070 8GB version. On average on eBay, an RTX 3070 8GB version used is between $240 to $250, but we were able to get this one for $200.63 after taxes and shipping. For the power supply, I went with this really reliable MSI MAG 550 watt power supply. I've used this one as well as the other MSI MAG 650 watt power supply many times. It's super reliable. It's tier C on the PSU tier list. Retail price on Amazon brand new is $65 for this PSU, but we were able to get this one for $50 also brand new off of Amazon over Prime weekend. For the case, I'm going with this really clean micro ATX Sama 2851 curved glass white case. I really like the way that this looks, and I'm excited to see what the final build looks like after we put all the pieces together. And to top off the aesthetic, we went with these Asia Horse white PSU extension cables. They're super clean and reliable, and they really help to piece the whole white aesthetic all together. And for these extension cables, retail price on Amazon is $20. We did not get a deal on this one, so we did end up spending the $20 for these extension cables, but it's very worth it for the aesthetic. So all in all, for a total budget, we did spend only $593.38 on this beautiful white gaming PC. I'm very proud of the deals that we were able to get. If you were to compare the price that we paid for the parts versus the average price of each of those parts, we managed to save over $120. All right, for the first order of business, I want to disassemble this graphics card so that we can get it spray painted. And while the spray paint is drying, we can actually piece together the CPU and motherboard and the rest. I've never disassembled a PNY card before. This one was really exciting. I really like this metal casing on the bottom of the graphics card that protects the fans and the way that the RGB is laid out as well. And while I'm disassembling this card, let me tell you how I sold the final PC in 1 day of it being listed. To tell you the story, I had a different PC listed, and the same day that I sold that PC, I got a message from a buyer that was interested, and they said, "Hey, I'm interested in this PC, is it still available?" And I unfortunately had to say, "No, I'm sorry, this PC is gone, but I am in the middle of building a couple more PCs. Would you be interested in buying the next one that I list?" The customer said that they would be interested as long as it followed a certain aesthetic and also included an RTX 3070. And so after we agreed on some specs and also the aesthetic that we were looking for, which was a white one with lots of RGB, we agreed that I would build this PC, show the customer, and if they liked it, I would reserve this PC for them, to which they would then buy the next day after it being listed, which did end up happening. I did ask the buyer which games they like to play, and they said that they primarily play Overwatch, really nothing else, maybe a little bit of Fortnite, which was awesome because the Ryzen 5 5500 paired with the RTX 3070 run Overwatch and Fortnite and all of these games amazingly. And so I know that this PC is going to fit the customer's needs very well. It is still a little nerve-wracking though, because what if I build the whole PC, I think that it looks perfect, but the customer ends up not liking it. So as I was building the PC, I gave them a couple pictures of the graphics card and ultimately what it would look like at the end, and they gave me some reassurance that it was up to an aesthetic that they liked. After disassembling the graphics card, I did end up spray painting it out back in white, and while that's drying off camera, we can now assemble the motherboard. After taking the motherboard out of its box, I'd like to start with the CPU. I want to show you how I unscrew the little casing on the actual AMD CPU cooler so that you can reorient the AMD logo to be on the top, like I mentioned last video. So first you pop up the casing with your hands, which takes a little bit of tension, and then you can access these 4 screws. After unscrewing the foundation for the lid of the CPU cooler, now you can reorient it for the AMD logo to be on top. After then spray painting the lid of the CPU cooler white, we can just plop it back on. It does take a little bit of force to pop it back on, but once it's on nice and snug. And now that the CPU cooler is ready, we can apply our thermal paste, screw down the cooler, plug in our SSD, latch it down with the screw, and then plug in our beautiful sticks of RAM. And this board is already looking very clean. After 3 coats of white paint and letting it dry overnight, now the graphics card is ready to be reassembled. So the only parts that I actually spray painted for the graphics card were the backplate and the plastic shroud around the graphics card. And reassembling the card is as simple as tracing your steps back from when you disassembled it. So first we install the fans, then the RGB casing, then the heatsink, then the PCB. And while we install the PCB, we also give it a fresh coat of thermal paste and make sure that all the thermal pads are aligned and are in good condition. And then it's as simple as just screwing the PCB down to the actual graphics card and screwing down the back plate. And after getting a couple more screws in there for the metal casing on the bottom of the card, we could see the final product. I really enjoyed disassembling and reassembling this card. I think that the final product ended up looking super duper clean. It's one of the cleanest graphics card that I've spray painted yet. I really like how the white clashes with the metallic gray, and I think that our customer is really going to enjoy the way that it looks with the rest of the PC. And now that the graphics card is finally ready, we can plug it into the motherboard, plug in the power supply cables, including the motherboard, CPU, and PCIe power, and we can just fire it right up. After using our little trick of shorting the pins with our screwdriver, we could see that the fans are spinning, the RGB has turned on, so we know that this motherboard is working. So now let's test it on the screen using our HDMI cable to make sure that it's posting. After shutting the power supply off and then back on, we can go back to the motherboard, short the power pins again with our trusty screwdriver, and just wait for a post. And after waiting about 30 seconds, the motherboard did post successfully, which is awesome. And that means that we can now move to actually putting the computer in its computer case. Alright, now that we got the case all open and on the desk, I did remove all of the twist ties because those are evil and can short your motherboard and totally kill it. The first thing that I like to do is to ensure that all of the standoffs are in the actual computer. And my mistake before, I did think that this was only a micro ATX PC case, but it is in fact a full ATX case, and I hope that after we put the micro ATX board in, that it won't look out of place. We'll just have to see. So the default ATX standoffs were in place, so we take those off and put them back on in the micro ATX spots where we actually need them for our motherboard. After that's all taken care of, we can finally put in the IO shield, which is funnily enough one of the most difficult things to actually do when you're building a PC, and then we can place in the motherboard. And after placing in the motherboard, it's just as simply as screwing it down in the standoffs, making sure to use a star method so that you don't over tighten any specific parts of the board. And one tip that I have for cable management is I do like to plug in the extension cables from the front, then going in the back after placing all of the combs on the extension cables, of course. It just makes it so much easier when you're finally cable managing the PC to have all of those cables already coming to you from the back and everything is already plugged in from the front. It saves a lot of time. It makes things a lot easier. Now that we're done placing the motherboard in the case and we're out back, the first thing that I like to do is I like to take off this hard drive cover to enable a lot more space for us to work with the cables and manage them. After that's out, I like to put the power supply in, and while I'm putting the power supply in, I'm thinking about where I want each of these cables to go. And while we were back here, I did find another twist tie. And remember guys, don't use twist ties in the back of your computer. Use Velcro instead. Twist ties are made out of a small metal rod that is encased by plastic. And if that metal rod protrudes even a tiny bit and touches the back of your motherboard, it could short your entire system, ruining your motherboard, CPU, power supply, everything. This tiny, less than 1 cent item could destroy your even $10,000 PC. So we don't want that happening. So I like to use this white Velcro. I got this 14-foot roll off of Amazon for $10, and it has served me very well. The first cables that I like to tackle are the cables that come from the actual case, including the power pin cables, the case fan cables, the USB 3.0 cable, and any others that were pre-attached to the case. After I get a good feel of where I want those to go, I tighten them down with some Velcro, and now we can tackle the big cables of the case, which are the cables that come from the power supply. I usually start with the motherboard extension cable, then the CPU extension cable, and then the PCIe extension cables, while making sure to plug in the SATA power from the power supply into our RGB hub in the back so that they can power the fans. And I'm no professional at cable managing. I just make sure that it doesn't obstruct the fans in the back and that it would be easily accessible from someone that maybe didn't know how to build PCs, maybe like my customer, that in the future, if they wanted to finagle with these cables, they'd be easily accessible and they could just reroute them any way that they wanted to. So after getting everything to a good fit that I was comfortable with, we can now finalize our build. And to do that, we just plug in our graphics card into the PCIe slot, screw it down, plug in those PCIe cables, switch the power supply on, and press the power button to make sure that everything's working. It's bad luck to put on all of the case covers now before powering on the PC for the first time, so I waste no time. I power on the PC and everything is working perfectly. The RGB looks great, and I think that this build looks super clean. After knowing that everything is great, I power it off, put the back plate on, and take a look at this beauty. I really enjoyed building this PC because as I was building it, I knew that it would look super clean. The RGB and the white aesthetic really match well with each other, especially the case fans to the RGB in the RAM and in the graphics card. The lines from the grill of the shroud of the graphics card line up with the lines on the motherboard, and all in all, I think it looks really clean. I was worried that the micro ATX board wouldn't look good in this ATX case, but I beg to differ. I really like the way that the graphics card just hangs there in the middle of the case with nothing below it to give it lots of fresh room for someone to look under it and see the RGB. The case feels open, clean, and breathing well. I'm really proud of how this build turned out. Now that the computer is all built and done, I did install Windows 11 Pro on it using a cheap $10 product key off of Groupon, and I'm excited to benchmark Overwatch. To do that, first, we install our graphics drivers for our RTX 3070 and our chipset drivers for the Ryzen 5 5500. I also take this time to look at the temps in the task manager, and they were looking perfect. The graphics card was sitting at a very nice 41 degrees Celsius at idle, which is great. All right, now let's get into the actual game. After using my trusty external hard drive that already had Steam downloaded on it, I just plugged that hard drive into the PC, downloaded Overwatch onto it, and I'm ready to see how this game performs. And just seeing the FPS here from the menu screen sitting at around 330, I was confident that it was going to perform very well. I am running Overwatch at high settings using DLSS upscaling to try to get the most performance possible while also not sacrificing quality. After getting into a game and playing the whole match, our average FPS was about 300. The lowest that I would see it go was about 270 and the highest about 330. And so 300 average FPS for 1080p highest settings on Overwatch with DLSS is amazing, and I'm sure that our customer is going to love it. So then I texted the customer. I told them the benchmarks of Overwatch. I gave them pictures of the PC, and they said that they absolutely loved it and that they were going to buy it the next day. I told them that I still wanted to list the PC on Facebook Marketplace so that I would just have the listing up in my history and that they could perhaps leave a review, and they agreed that that was fine. So I brought the PC upstairs, and I'll just show you guys the kind of photos that I use for my listings. I always take a video to start. I like to go for a 45-degree angle, a front facing, the IO shield, the back, the top, and any other pictures that I want to include that show how clean the build actually is. All right, guys, so now that we got everything benchmarked, everything's looking amazing, we can now pack this thing and bring it to the buyer, which our appointment is in 30 minutes. So let's go. All right, it's about 15 minutes until our appointment. Got the box in the car, along with the Ziploc bag with the power cable and also the Wi-Fi antenna. So the next time you'll see me will probably be after it's already sold and I'm back home so that we can talk more about it. Hey guys, we're back. Do you see?
It's gone. We sold the PC. It's been about a week now since we sold the computer. The customer was super nice. They were super responsive to my messages, and as you could see in some of those messages, they were also very considerate and kind when talking about the quality of the build and to me answering their questions. Really, this experience was one of the smoothest that I've ever had with the customer. So for some key takeaways from this video about starting your own PC flipping business and maintaining a great reputation, the best advice that I could give is to be honest. Just be honest. Be honest with your budget, with your specs, with your descriptions, with your messages. Be honest and you will be rewarded. One of the best ways that I can see that in my business is when I respond honestly and concisely to a customer, they usually treat me with similar respect, and it ends up not only resulting in a sale, but sometimes in a long-term customer. The person that I sold this video's PC to just now was super nice and considerate. And something that I always mention to customers while I'm selling the PC is that if they ever need an upgrade in the future or repair or anything of the sort or tech questions, that they can come to me. And more often than not, they do. They come to me with random questions. The other day, someone asked me what a Wi-Fi router was. And that may not be for you, but I really enjoy it. And it brings forth a sort of community around my business, which I really enjoy. So thank you guys for watching this video. Please consider liking or subscribing. It really helps. And thank you so much for the support on this channel. It's been amazing. I've never imagined so much support so far on this channel. And I'm going to keep uploading as consistently as I can. It may not be every week, but I will upload every PC build. I'm very excited to see where this channel and community takes us here on Build Easy PC. But alright guys, I'll see you next episode.